I know, like, just from previous experience, like, you have a higher chance of getting, or a response if you just, send that follow-up email even just once more. And it doesn't have to be pushy or overly aggressive. It's just, just checking in, like, just making sure you got my previous email. And clearly it works because you got back to me and some other outlets did too.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Release Day Series podcast, B-Sides. I'm your host, Alex Heward. Joining me today is Asian-Canadian indie artist Leanna Oki to talk about her single, It Was All a Lie, that she released on September 30th, 2022. Now, Leanna has been incredibly busy over the last few years, writing, self-producing, and self-releasing her own music, and I'm excited to talk to her not only about that process, but also the process and success that she's had reaching out to online music publications and even being played on radio stations. So, broadcasting from the traditional territory of the Williams Treaties First Nations, Leanna, welcome to the podcast. Congratulations on the release of your single. How does it feel to get it out to the world?
Thank you so much for that warm introduction, Alex. Yeah, it feels really good. I actually have been holding back on this release for quite some time, and I've re-recorded this track countless times, and it just feels good to finally share it with everyone.
Why the delay? What was it? Was it just not the right time? Were you just not emotionally there? I mean, it's a pretty heavy song, and I'll be honest, a lot of your songs are pretty heavy, and you can tell though you write really from a place of meaning and intent, and I think that probably is opens you up to a lot of your listeners as well. But back to my original question, 5 years, why so long with this one?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I actually I wrote the song 5 years ago. There has been such a shift in just me as a person, and that song represents a very early stage in kind of my understanding of relationships and love and heartbreak. So it was a very personal song, and I was hesitant to share that vulnerable side of myself.
I'm just going to read what you've put and written about the song, because you put it so well. But expressing the naivete of young love, It Was All a Lie is a song that vulnerably sheds light on the heavy emotions that come after losing someone you love. Does that go into your mind at all about the individual that you write a song like this about and them hearing this?
Yeah, it does cross my mind. I really wonder if the person who I wrote the song about actually would have any clue it was about them, because I honestly would be pleased if they made the connection and, they understood how much of an impact that made on me.
You talk about finding a sound and really developing as a songwriter and as a producer. What is sort of the way that you go about educating yourself as well in the production world?
Yeah, so I, starting out, I had no connections. It was just me propelling myself to learn more about music and how to make my own music. And the first thing I did when I was ready to actually professionally record my own songs is I just searched recording studios in Toronto, and I went to the one that had the best reviews. And I said, like, is there anyone that can help me produce this track and put it, bring it to life? And that studio did have their own producers, and I instantly connected with one of them, and we produced a song together. And then from that point on, like, I just kind of learned by watching YouTube videos and learning from him and just continuing to practice that skill. That's
wicked. Yeah, mentorship is huge, but you know what? I think it's great. Just that first step. What's that first step? So many people struggle on that first step, and they might even look at it as like, well, what's the right studio to go to? How do I know that this producer, and then you start questioning yourself in, is this the right person? Is this the right thing to spend money on? Is that? And then all of a sudden you ask yourself so many questions that you're like, forget it.
Yeah. I think a lot of people talk themselves out of, doing something that is, risky or challenging in some sort of way. And that's definitely what held me back for so long before I made that big step forward. And even, to this day, I struggle with just that self-doubt and insecurity of, is it worth it to like put all my resources and energy and emotion into this part of my life when, it's not my full-time career. It's a hard business to succeed in, but at the end of the day, it's something that I love to do, and I would do it regardless of the outcome. It's my, way of expressing myself, and just something I love to do. So I try to remind myself of that.
And you know what, also therapeutic, right? Getting your emotions, getting your thoughts out as well. And, I think you're great at doing that just through all the tracks that you've been releasing. Since I heard of you back in 2021 with Sync, I believe,
yes,
is what came out then. You had a song Heisenberg before that, but Sync was what caught my attention. And I believe that was sent, you had Carrie Zalick as your publicist at the time for that song.
And that was, a big step in my journey. And I want to thank you for being one of the first people to actually support my music and share it with your audience.
Oh, you're very welcome. It was great. I share and I put out what really resonates with me, and Sync was something that it just sounded great. And again, I think there's the way that you sing your music is just, you feel it. There is something there that, whether you have those direct experiences or not, you can at least say, wow, like, she's feeling something here. And I remember that being the big thing about Sync, and it continues into a song like It Was All a Lie. And now, when working with Carrie as a publicist, did that help you get into sort of more of a marketing and promotional sense independently as well? Because I know that you've been featured in quite a few publications and like Toronto Guardian, Canadian Beats, Aesthetic Magazine, and continually are featured in those publications as you go along. What did you learn or take away from working with Carrie to help continue your independent public relations roles with your other songs?
Yeah, I mean, you got it spot on. Like, she really guided me at the beginning and started my journey and understanding of, how to actually promote and work on the business side of music. And that was a really huge step for me in my music career, to have her to support and guide me. And that helped me to establish those connections that many of which I still have today, and I'm very grateful for. And she taught me like how to present your music to these outlets and really make a statement that actually catches their attention. Since then, I have shared my music or sent it out to blogs and different outlets. And, I have a whole list on my Excel worksheet. And then whoever gets back to me is, it's always lovely to hear. And I also use different websites to send my music to other outlets. So that's kind of my process.
That's awesome. Wow. Yeah. I love that. Again, just being able to take something that you learn from somebody like Carrie, again, in a mentor capacity as well, to be able to say, hey, here's, thank you for hiring me. Here's how you can do things, and then be okay with how you take things along the way. And I think it's a big struggle as well for artists to really champion themselves. And I'm not saying that it's so easy for you, the way that you're able to get the success that you do have, but at the same time, you recognize, like, if somebody else isn't going to do this, like, I've got to do it, because if I don't do it, who's going to do it for me? So you've had much success. And I got to say, well, one thing too, that it sounds like and has looked like you're not afraid to do is follow up with these publications, like as you did with me, because we get busy, we get bogged down, or we take a break and then we come back, and sometimes it's just that extra email that you put in an inbox that has just a push, given that extra little push to us as a, myself as a podcast, or to them as a publication that says, oh, great, Leanna's back. Cool. Missed the first one. Let's get it. What do we have here? Is there a little bit of reservation in following up now, or are you beyond like, what, I'm going to follow up? Like it's easy now.
Yeah, I think it's just part of my process now. I know, like, just from previous experience, like, you have a higher chance of getting, a response if you just, send that follow-up email even just once more. And it doesn't have to be pushy or overly aggressive. It's just, just checking in, like, just making sure you got my previous email. And I don't go too much further beyond that point, but clearly it works, because you got back to me and some other outlets did too.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, yeah, and you've had great success with Aesthetic Magazine as well, which is really cool to see. They're a wonderful publication. Same with Canadian Beats. So it's really cool to see you getting out on those outlets as well. And one other thing that I do love is that you address me by Alex. Like, I have Alex in the podcast name. It's pretty easy to know who you're reaching out to, and just on top of that, it just it's a lot more personal, because you got to start somewhere. That's another thing too, right? I don't want to say like, oh, you're too small, I don't want to talk to you. That's not the case at all. I mean, it comes down to good music. It comes down to that connection and reaching out. And I don't want artists to think that, and I'm sure other publications don't want artists to think that you're too small for them. It's just they want to see that you are dedicated. They want to see that you are as into your art form and your music and the way that you go about promoting yourself as they are. So I think that's part of it as well from our side is, what work are you going to put in that is going to make me, think, let's talk. They take this serious. I take this serious. Let's do this together.
Building those connections is huge. And I think the thing that resonates with others the most is being real, authentic, just putting your real self forward, because I think people see through that super easily. We have that intuition and that ability to really sense if someone's being genuine or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally. Well, this was awesome. It Was All a Lie. Your new single is out today, September 30th, 2022. Like, heavy song, but again, so well put together. I love the way that the guitar is a little bit more apparent in this track as well. And a happy belated birthday. You've got balloons behind you. So you're welcome. Leanna Oki, thank you so much for joining me on this edition of Release Day Series B-Side. You can discover more podcast episodes as well as our limited video series on our website, www.releasedayseries.com. And if you'd like to support the show, we've added that option to the website as well. Send us $1, $3, $5, whatever you'd like. Any support helps. But most importantly, we appreciate you listening and sharing the podcast.